It's crystal clear that they're going to print a lot of money. The Trump administration wants crypto to go up. They're going to repay us by paying taxes. Ethereum is going to rip. I've got a $10,000 to $20,000 price target for the end of the cycle. How do you create a bubble that creates activity, that pumps the assets that everybody owns so they feel good in November of 2026? That is the altcoin season that we're going to see, I think, in 2026. This is a time now to deploy capital for an amazing 2026.
I'm very pleased to welcome back to the show one of the giants in the crypto space, Arthur Hayes, CIO of Maelstrom and the co-founder of BitMEX. We're going to get his read on the current crypto markets, Bitcoin and altcoins, and what he likes right now. Arthur, welcome back to the show. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
I just want to start by talking about Bitcoin. Why has it stalled? Why are we still at 100K? It's pretty much flat on the year. Why has it underperformed stocks? I think that's what most people are wondering right now. Let's start with that.
Yeah, so obviously everything is entry-level dependent. If you've been in Bitcoin for a while, you're not that fussed about sort of the lackluster performance, but because we're humans and we like to make these artificial delineations of time in terms of January to November, whatever it is, then people are a bit like, oh, why isn't Bitcoin the best performing thing in the 11 months of 2025? Why is it gold? Why is it Nvidia or whatever it is, right? And they forget that for those of us who've been in this game for a while, that Bitcoin's been the best performing asset of all time, especially given the debasement of currencies around the world. But back to this year. We think about the main events of this year. The first was the inauguration of U.S. President Trump. And I came out with a call back in January of this year, basically being like, well, where is the impulse for spending money? Where is the printed money going to come from? Trump's promising all these things. Can he actually make good on them? Obviously, the hype was massive. We had the Trump meme coin launch. And then just like we're in a simulation on January 20th, pretty much the market peaked and it was down. And the April Liberation Day was sort of the icing on the cake in terms of Bitcoin poor price performance, where we get down to like 73, 74,000 on Bitcoin. And then those of us who had cash available were able to capitalize on sort of the Trump taco trade in terms of the trade negotiations with predominantly China and the rest of the world. And obviously, if you've been invested from April 9th until the present, you've done very, very well in Bitcoin and gold and some other things. And now if we come to the fall, I posted a chart maybe a week and a half ago, and it was my liquidity indicator, starting with the debt ceiling raising of the debt ceiling in July 4th of 2025 this year. And myself and other macro analysts pointed out that the Treasury under Buffalo Bill Bessent had to raise cash to refill its coffers. And they've done so to the tune of about $1 trillion on a net basis. If you take a look at the Treasury General account, over the same time period, there wasn't really any new source of dollar liquidity being pumped into the system. And we also saw stress in the funding markets, meaning that cash is tight within the US money markets. And Bitcoin pretty much was down 5 or 6%, in line with dollar liquidity down 5 or 6% from July. And so the question now is, okay, well, the government's been shut down. The Treasury's issued way too much debt. They haven't really spent any money over the last, 40 days, however long it's lasted. And now that we expect this to end, because I guess the Senate voted, or maybe the House voted, I don't know which one, the Treasury's going to get back to doing what it does best, printing money and spending it on stuff. On goodies. Now, you might not like the goodies that they're spending the money on, but we don't care as crypto investors. As long as there's more dollars being created, our assets are going to benefit, predominantly Bitcoin. And so I think that this is the time now to start getting ready for the real show of Trump and Bessent. Now, for those of you who watch the U.S. elections in the various cities around the United States, the Democrats had a very good showing. And essentially their message was free shit and anti-Trump. And I think what people forget is that U.S. President Trump is one of the biggest free shitters out there. He did the biggest free shit giveaway, the helicopter money COVID stimulus checks, which prompted Biden to follow suit. So I know that the team red Republicans like to throw these words, socialism, and that's a dirty word in American politics around. They're just as socialist as the Democrats. It's just that they hand the money out to big corporations and the Democrats hand it out to migrants. It doesn't matter. We don't care. Take your political ideology out of it. express yourself at the ballot box. But you want to make money. It doesn't really matter where the money's going. It's just that it is created and Bitcoin benefits. And so I think that if the Team Red Republicans want to have any shot of winning the U.S. midterm elections next November, forget about China, forget about trade war. It's all about printing money and handing it out, whether that's to build weapons, to build rare earths, to supercharge AI, all the things that the Republicans like to fund. They're going to print the money to make sure that happens, and so that their constituency feels the love going into November and shows up at the ballot box. And that's what 2026 is all about. And now we have this awesome opportunity to get in before it's crystal clear that they're going to print a lot of money. Right now, there's a little bit of uncertainty about, is there going to be enough liquidity? Are we at the top of the 4-year cycle? This is a time now to deploy capital for an amazing 2026.
I want to give a teaser to the discussion that we're having later today, which is Zcash. And I will get your projection on alts in just a minute. So stay tuned for Arthur Hayes' anticipation or outlook for the altcoin market overall. But what happened to Zcash? It's something that people haven't really been following. It's kind of been stagnant for about 3 years now. And then something happened last month. Now it's up 10x since a month ago.
So Zcash, I remember 2016, and I was deep enmeshed in Zcash. It was the hottest project at crypto at the time. Very focused on privacy. It was a big narrative. And BitMEX was the first trading platform of any type to launch a pre-market Zcash futures contract. It really elevated our stature in the crypto markets, the price action around this thing. And when it eventually listed in 2016, I think it was December, because of how the mining rewards worked. And I know your chart only goes back to 2021 because it's probably Binance or somebody.
Yeah.
If you go back, or Coinbase or whatever, if you go back to the Genesis block in 2016, you'll see that the price spiked to something like $3,000 per Zcash on Poloniex or something like that. And that was due to, there wasn't a lot of supply on the market. So if you want to talk about the low circulating supply games that we play today in the shitcoin market, Zcash is one of the first really to go hard at this. And that's because there just wasn't enough coins because of how the mining worked. And so you had this big spike, and then obviously the price collapsed. There were some things that were not optimal about how they were conducting privacy, the trusted setup, the lack of any supply that was using these shielded addresses. So it was basically just another version of Bitcoin with, this possibility of privacy. Fast forward to today. And obviously I wasn't the first one on this. You have people like Naval and others who've been involved in the Zcash ecosystem a lot more intently than me. I'm kind of a later stage kind of guy. I mean, I definitely made some X's on this one, but I definitely wasn't the start of this move. And what is the narrative that they're pushing? Okay, well, if we have AI and if we have all this compute power, we're going to be able to de-anonymize Bitcoin transactions. And even Monero transactions. Japanese authorities have been able to do that, if you believe a particular news article. And what do we have in our stable of shitcoins that's going to be able to give us privacy if we have all this compute power that can essentially figure out who owns what Bitcoin via metadata, via anything that you're putting online, via on-chain transactions? And of course, the authorities will have access to all this information. And so if you care about privacy, then it behooves you to have a certain percentage of your stack in a token like Zcash. And that's the big narrative. And also there's this whole narrative of Bitcoin's been taken over by TradFi. TradFi can't trade privacy coins. I tried to buy some Zcash on the first rip, and like 6 out of 8 of my brokers can support it because they're not allowed to trade privacy coins. And the fact that TradFi is not allowed makes it even more appealing to the grassroots crypto enthusiasts who feel like this whole movement has sort of been co-opted by BlackRocks of the world and XYZ Bank launching some sort of derivative product, DATs, all this sort of stuff. And people feel a bit disillusioned that we're straying away from what we came here for. That's what Zcash represents. And that's why it's up so meaningfully, so quickly. And I think it'll continue going forward. My price target is 10% of the value of Bitcoin is what I'm targeting for my Zcash stack. Does that mean I'm going to sell it? No. Again, as Naval said, it's insurance against Bitcoin. If I believe in Bitcoin, and I do think there are some reasons why you want to have pseudonymous addresses to prove that things happen, especially if you want to have governments start using Bitcoin. I want to prove that they actually paid for things versus cash where they can, hand the briefcase over to the terrorists and then claim they didn't do anything. Well, I think that we need Zcash, and that's why people are recognizing this. And there's a grassroots move to support it, and we've seen a massive rise in the price, and I think it's got further to go.
The global financial system is rapidly moving on chain, and today's sponsor, Cool Wallet, is a name worth watching. Cool Wallet builds next-generation cold wallets designed for a world where real-world assets, payments, and savings live on the blockchain. Their flagship credit card-sized hardware wallets combine CCEAL6 Plus secure element protection, mobile-first usability, and a unique 2+1 factor authentication system that requires your phone, your biometric ID, and your card to approve every single transaction. So here's a Cool Wallet Go card. It's an easy-to-use, on-the-go, card-sized hard drive that stores your private keys and literally fits inside your wallet or purse. Activating the card is simple. It takes about 30 seconds. All you have to do is download the Cool Wallet app and follow the on-screen prompts. Let me show you now. Activating a new wallet is very simple. Simply go on the app, click on Add Wallet, and it's going to ask me if I have a card. Yes, I have a card. Every time you order a Cool Wallet Go product and package, it comes with 2 cards, primary and backup. It's going to ask me which card type, in this case, Cool Wallet Go. Notice how it pairs with NFC. Click on that, create a new wallet, activate primary card. Either of these cards can be your primary card. Simply scan the card by tapping it to the back of your phone. Success. And it's important to know that you need the primary and backup cards to be able to fully activate the entire wallet. So both of them have to be active. Now create a new pairing password. This is important for when you need to recover your wallet in case your cards are ever lost. Generate by card. It's going to ask me to generate a private key. Tap my primary card, start setup. Now it's pairing my private key to the primary card. Now that both cards are paired with the private keys and activated, the wallet is ready to go. As you can see, it's a brand new wallet, so it has no funds in there. Every time you put money in there and you want to transfer funds to another wallet, like this, for example, it will require you to scan and tap the card to the back of your phone as a security precaution. That's just one of the benefits of using Cool Wallet. It's very secure. Remember how I said to remember your pairing password? Well, if ever you lose the card, go to settings, go down, replace primary card, and it's going to ask you to enter your pairing password. That will start the process. So once you've activated the wallet, you can use the app to swap to other tokens and cryptos. All you have to do is first click on the manage icon on the app, add the crypto that you want, then go to the home page and click on swap, and the crypto you just added should be there. You can also send cryptos to another wallet, making peer-to-peer transactions instantaneous and frictionless. There's also an earn function that allows you to stake your holdings to generate yield. Cool Wallet also recently launched a breakthrough fiat on-ramp feature. So instead of going to a centralized exchange first, you can on-ramp directly to Cool Wallet. Users can create a bank account under their name and a fiat currency of their choosing that's available, wire the funds in, and have those dollars automatically converted into a stablecoin that's on-chain, directly into your wallet within minutes. With support for 40-plus mainnets, staking, lending, NFTs, and advanced clear signing protections against phishing and malicious contracts, Cool Wallet is positioning self-custody for mass adoption. To learn more, go to the link down below or scan the QR code here. And if you do use my code, you'll get a 5% off on your first purchase. I'd also encourage you to check out my interview with Cool Wallet CEO Michael O for more details on the product and why we need self-custody today. And he also explains in great detail how the security functions work. Link also down below. How do you know it won't suffer the same fate as Monero? Basically banned and made illegal in a lot of countries: Australia, Japan, UAE.
I mean, Zcash is free. Go and pick your major exchange. You're most likely not going to be able to buy Zcash. The United States stands out as one place where Zcash is allowed for trading. And I think that's part of the appeal. If it works, if I can't get it, I want more of it. And what aren't we supposed to be all about on-chain? The centralized exchanges. Now we have the ability using near intents and some other public blockchains to essentially buy and sell Zcash and other assets completely anonymously. That is the goal of this whole movement. The fact that you can't get it on the centralized exchange blessed by the government makes me want it even more.
All right. Well, I want to come back to what your fund, Maelstrom, likes, and kind of give an overview of the projects that you're interested in just a minute. So stay tuned for that. So going back to the article I briefly shared, a lot of people are concerned about the future of altcoins. Now, this particular article highlighted what happened in the last couple of weeks. The crypto market's recent sharp sell-off wiped out nearly $20 billion in leveraged positions in a matter of hours. Now, this having leveraged positions in crypto is not new, but people have already been concerned about how altcoins were lagging Bitcoin for quite some time. Bitcoin dominance rising, as you know. This, people say, is the last nail in the coffin. I've even heard remarks from my personal friends saying, hey, altcoin is dead. It's going to be dead permanently. It's not coming back. What do you think?
Specific types of altcoins are dead. I think we had some amazing price discovery in that 1010 crash. Essentially, you had a large swath of the alt universe, which was just a market maker circle jerk. They pretend to provide liquidity. We pretend that it's worth whatever fully diluted valuation. When the market maker leaves, there's no organic demand for these pieces of shit, and they're worth 90% less than that we see on the screen. So great. We know what most of this ecosystem is worth, zero. And people should treat it that way. Now, today, just recently, Uniswap put a proposal forward to turn on a fee switch, and Uni's up 30% in a matter of minutes on an announcement. Now, what does that prove? If we have protocols, and we do have these, that have real clients, Uniswap has real clients, that pay real money, people spend, things other than Uniswap and Uniswap to pay for fees. And finally, we're going to get some of that money back as token holders. Now, that's great. That's why Uniswap is pumping. That's why EtherFi is doing well. That's why Athena is doing well. That's why Pendle's doing well. These are projects with clients. These are projects with revenue. These are projects that profit goes back to the token holders. That is the altcoin season that we're going to see, I think, in 2026. Now, whatever other piece of shit that you own that has no clients, a bunch of hype, Binance Launchpad, paid a bunch of KOLs to shill it, market maker was there, then they're not, and it's worth 90%, and you got liquidated. Sorry, that's a dog shit piece of shit coin.
Something's only a piece of crap in retrospect, though, Arthur, says a lot of people. Well, nobody. I mean, some people buy in knowing it's garbage and they're just speculating, but some people don't. How do you discern between something that's, of sound properties and something that's just garbage?
Again, this is all my opinion. Everyone's investment philosophy is different, right? I'm coming from a stance of capital abundance. So I'm more concerned about capital preservation than appreciation. Like Zcash, I was late, right? I didn't buy Zcash at $20 before, or $30 before the recent massive move. I bought it in the hundreds, right? I heard about it late, but I don't want to be early and, be down 100%. So that's just how I approach things. So if I am going to be late and I want to be able to deploy a significant amount of capital and feel safe about it, safe in relative terms of crypto, then I want to see some profitability. I want to go on Token Terminal and look up, okay, who's making money? Who is putting that money back to the token holders? It's a very few projects that are doing that. Now, is this a project that's going to go 100x in the next 2 weeks? No. So a lot of people are like, no, that's not what I want. I am on a very low salary. I've got a little bit of savings. This is what I believe is my only way to escape the inflation trap that's been hoisted upon me by every single government around the world. YOLO this shit. I want to go along something that's going to go up 100x in the next 2 weeks. Well, then you're going to get shit that goes down 90% because the market maker went away. So that's the game people are playing. It's a very rational game. I'm not, trying to throw shade on them. I understand why people view this altcoin speculative game as a way out of a shitty situation that governments around the world have put themselves in, put the people in. But again, that's, that comes to the game. If you want to get 100x, you got to be able to suffer bagels.
Right. And that leads me to my next point about how you are picking things that are, not going to go down 90%. So this is from CoinDex, your fund. Maelstrom is seeking $250 million private equity fund to acquire crypto firms. So before I summarize this piece for us, why don't you tell us what you're trying to do right now?
So there are a subset of very integral firms. You probably haven't heard of them before. Maybe you have, but they're in the background. They're not the Binances, the Coinbases, the Krakens of the world. They generate high margins, 50 to 75% EBITDA margins, good revenue, $25 to $100 million revenue companies, founder led, and, they have no tokens, which is great for this equity play. And so our thesis is that there's a lot of capital out there that wants to play in this particular niche. They've gotten burned in the liquid VC. They've gotten burned in early stage VC because they've just underperformed Bitcoin and Ethereum. So we're saying, hey, let's get back to basics. We're going to target companies that make cash. There's no token. We have a stable of really credible operators who can come into one of these companies. We can give the founders a nice exit. They can go off into the sunset and enjoy their lives. And we can come in and polish these companies up, and we can get a multiple expansion. We can sell them on to a larger PE fund, or we can do some sort of public markets situation. And so that's why we launched this particular fund to service this very specific niche.
Are you screening for how they're generating cash flow, which sectors within cryptos or what use cases and applications they're targeting?
We're mostly concerned with infrastructure, not specifically, not exchanges. So data players, API connectivity, stuff like that. Stuff that's a little bit less sexy. And again, no token, because we want a clean cap table to affect this strategy that we're doing.
Okay. And what's the timeline for this fund? When are you planning to deploy this capital?
I think we'll be finished fundraising in Q1 of next year, and then we'll be patient. We have a very long list of potential acquirees, and we're just going to go and block and tackle and get it done.
Well, do you think now is the time, just market-wise, to be acquiring companies within the crypto sphere? Is it a little bit too expensive right now? Are you waiting for
some things are too expensive, but there's a lot of idiosyncratic deals. An illness, a legal issue, right? And a founder has to sell. Right. And if we're there ready with capital and the know-how to step in and reorganize these companies, we're ready to go.
Let's go back to the QT argument and narrative and bring it back to altcoins. What's going to happen? You talked about what's going to happen to Bitcoin. What's going to happen to the altcoin space when there's more liquidity from the Fed? Do we see Bitcoin dominance rise, or is this finally going to be altcoin season come spring 2026?
So, Bitcoin dominance is really a function of what's ETH going to do. I'm in the Tom Lee camp. I think ETH is, going to continue this rally. You might not like the narrative, but he's trying to put this narrative out there that Ethereum is the public blockchain for TradFi that wants to get on chain. I know that there are lots of banks looking at doing stablecoin projects, other DeFi things within their businesses, and now they need to choose a public blockchain. I think that's going to be Ethereum. And Ethereum is going to rip. I've got a $10,000 to $20,000 price target for the end of the cycle. That will take Bitcoin dominance down. And then the DeFi projects that are profitable and are handing out revenue to token holders, like a Uniswap, those are going to see a resurgence.
What's your thesis on Ethereum again?
I think that it's going to be the narrative will be it's the layer one blockchain for TradFi. As in, you want to do stable coins on chain, you're going to use Ethereum. You want to do some sort of lending operation or capital markets thing. Now that you believe in DeFi, you're allowed to do it by your board. Whatever your solution is, you're going to use a public blockchain. It's going to be on Ethereum.
It's not, aren't there faster, cheaper blockchains already, though? Are there?
Well, Ethereum is the most secure, right? So if you think about, proof of stake, it's 300 something billion. It's the most secure in terms of value that is staked.
Mm-hmm. I want to get your reaction to this piece of news. Trump announced earlier on Sunday through Truth Social that he's interested in the idea of a $2,000 dividend payment, or at least $2,000 will be paid to most Americans from U.S. tariff revenues. The president called critics of tariffs fools and said that U.S. was taking in trillions of dollars. Well, last time we had stimulus money from the pandemic, the altcoin market blew up, crypto market blew up. I wonder, okay, so let's assume he goes ahead with this. We're going to get new stimmies. Now, there's two ways to look at it. Return to 2021, or people are finding other things to bet on now. People have moved on. Have you looked at
I think it's a bit of I think you should view this tariff thing as a signal, not the actual event, right? So what is he signaling here? He's signaling that Team Red Republicans are in the business of giving out free shit. Now, this isn't specifically free shit because if they've taxed consumers on the one hand to pay the tariff and then they give it back to them, it's kind of a net wash. At the end of the day, I'm sure there's some distribution issues, but this isn't as a game changer as if he said, we are going to issue $500 billion or more of treasuries and hand it out to the public. Like, that would be another level of bullishness for all types of risky assets. This, I think, is signaling that Team Red Republicans are in the game of giving out free shit. And this is a very easy thing to say because he could paint it to his conservative folks as, oh, no, it's budget neutral because we've already collected the tariff revenue. But again, it's in the same theme of, hey, there are these Democrats like Mamdani and others out there saying, we're going to give you free shit. Well, the Republicans are in the game of giving free shit too. And this is how we're going to do it. And here's a signal of that we're serious about this. I think we're going to see a lot of different types of things coming out from them next year. But again, I just think it's creating this narrative that it's election time to give out the goodies. Here's an area where we can give you goodies, tariffs, versus, I don't know, Mamdani said, I'm going to give you a free bus pass or whatever it is, right? So again, it's all positioning a narrative. I don't really know if it actually get through, whether or not, I mean, who knows if his tariffs are even legal, right? The U.S. Supreme Court's voting on whether they believe that Trump had the power to even levy these things. So again, I think it's more of a direction of travel. Understand that he's serious about giving out free shit. How he does it, we'll find out. But don't doubt that him and Buffalo Bill Besson are going to print a fuck ton of money to make sure that they have the greatest chance, or Team Republicans have the greatest chance of winning in the November 2026 elections.
What do you personally want more? If you were given the choice, free bus passes or free $2,000? I mean, let's be clear. It probably doesn't. Neither probably impacts you. Yeah. There you go. But what?
That's the best thing about Bitcoin, right? Because if you're trading stocks, you care, right? Because okay, do I buy some company downstream of whoever's getting the free money? Right. Yeah. That's why some of the rare earth companies have done well. Some of the solar companies have done well during the Biden administration, right? Because they were pumping green. So the solar got pumped. Now we're talking about rare earths. So the rare earths companies get pumped, right? If you're in the equity space, you need to understand where the money's coming from, where is it going, make sure you're positioned in the right type of companies. That's difficult. I take the different approach. Okay, I know that money is being created. I know that Bitcoin has been the best performing asset in a fiat debasement race since 2009. Therefore, I don't care where it goes. All I care is that it gets created. I don't have to pick a stock. I just pick one thing, Bitcoin, and I'm going to outperform most stocks. Right? Being a stock picker is very, very difficult.
I want to get you to respond to one more piece of news. This is the Trump administration announcing today that crypto-backed mortgages could be a thing soon. In June, a directive issued by the Federal Housing Finance Agency ordered mortgage giants Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to develop proposals to consider crypto as an asset in single-family home risk assessment. If we could start using our cryptos in our wallets as collateral, what does that imply? What does that mean for the housing market? What does that mean for crypto investments?
I think that the Team Red Republican strategy with crypto is, okay, we need to create, every administration needs to create a bubble to paper over the previous one that burst, right? And so if, what stands out, we have the AI and we have the crypto bubble. And so the Trump administration wants crypto to go up. If crypto goes up, and then now you can essentially securitize that crypto, right? Whether it's go to JP Morgan with your ETF and get a margin loan to do other stuff, whatever it is. Now you can get a house and pump the housing market. So let's take this cohort, let's pump them up with, market-friendly regulations and a lot of printed money. They're going to repay us by paying taxes and buying stuff. Now, if the housing market goes bananas because the crypto folks are buying it and everyone in America feels rich and they go out and take a home equity loan because now the 10-year yield is much lower and they compress the risk premium on mortgage-backed securities, oh my God, they just unleashed trillions of dollars in the economy. Everybody's happy because 65% of the American public owns a house. There you go. There's your election. So again, how do you create a bubble that creates activity that pumps the assets that everybody owns so they feel good in November of 2026? If you view all politics through that lens, then it becomes very, very, it's not that difficult to understand what's going to happen.
You've done studies of this on your own, and you've done some research. Either Republican or Democrat, like you're right, they're going to offer free stuff. They want to offer better living standards in the form of free stuff. Now, that means more spending by either party. We're going to get more fiscal stimulus, more monetary stimulus, like you said. What happens? How much more liquidity can we reasonably expect in the system by next year? And ultimately, the impact of the markets, what can we expect?
I don't know what the number is. I think it'll be in the trillions. It really depends on what's the control mechanisms the Trump administration has over the various government bureaucracies. There's housing markets. One, they could unleash trillions by unleashing Fannie and Freddie to go out there and issue more mortgages. if they could control the Fed, they can do some sort of yield curve control, cap yields, and that reduces mortgage rates. People are going to lever up their home equity. There's so many things they can do. And, I put some there's stable coins, $10 trillion. I put big numbers out there. All I care about is getting the direction of travel right. And as long as you get the direction of travel right, you'll do well.
Finally, I wonder, I want to get your take on betting markets before we go. As the co-founder of a large exchange, BitMEX, you probably have a lot to say about platforms overall. Polymarket has been one of the companies that allows people to bet directly on events. And they've been pretty much consistently, if you look at their platform, they've been pretty much consistently right. Well, the people betting on Polymarkets and Kalshi and others have been pretty much consistently right when it comes to presidential elections, mayoral elections. I mean, basically, Mandani's win was predicted by betting markets all the way back in June. And they have actually reported the win before everybody else. When Mamdani won earlier this week, Polymarket called it that's what they tweeted. Do you think this is going to lead to some sort of persuasion of the markets? People look at the odds and say, well, XYZ odds have higher chance of winning than the other odds. So that's actually going to influence how people trade, how people invest, how people vote.
Of course, but I think the bigger issue is, and I can't speak for other political systems. At least for the United States, right? You have primaries, right? And there's lots of people who want to vie to get on the ticket of the team red Republicans or team blue Democrats. Now, the party bigwigs have to decide who they're going to fund. Who are they going to support? Well, in the past, they had, incomplete, inaccurate polling data. And whoever had better polling data obviously would be able to invest better in different candidates. Now you have Polymarket. You have the wisdom of the crowd as expressed anonymously with money on the line globally. And so, okay, well, here's a slate of 5 contenders for a particular nomination of a particular public office. I'm going to support the number one on Polymarket, 3 months out from the election, whatever the heuristic is. This is going to make for better choices of political parties as to who they support in particular primaries. It's going to get reflexive, right? As you said, I see that this person is doing well. I'm more likely to support them because humans want to be on the winning team. And so I think that, and the news organizations are going to now just basically be regurgitators for Polymarket. You'll have some commentary that means fucking nothing, probably written by some AI or some person straight out of university, and then you just have the Polymarket. And that's all you need to know, because we read the chart, we know, okay, this is what the crowd thinks. Whether or not that actually is the result, we just want to know at the current time, what does the most number of humans believe about this particular event? That's what Polymarket, Kalshi, and We're an Investor and Limitless. That's what these prediction markets are going to do. And they're going to do what, social media did to news, right? What do we see now? It's XYZ mainstream outlet is essentially a commentary around a tweet. The real action happens on X, on Instagram, on WeChat, and then we hear about it in the legacy media well after the fact. Well, the real signal is on the prediction markets, and the Wall Street Journal is just going to write about it for anyone who doesn't have a cell phone to pick it up and look at it. So it's just going to further erode the necessity for traditional media outlets.
All right, Arthur, we want to follow you. We want to keep up to date on what you're doing and what Maelstrom's doing, and maybe even learn about your thought process. Where do we do that?
So on X, you can find me at CryptoHaze. On Substack, I publish my free Crypto Traders Digest under the moniker of CryptoHaze as well.
Okay, we'll put the links down below. Thank you very much, Arthur. Appreciate you coming back to the show. Take care.
Thank you.
We'll speak again soon. And thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow Arthur. Links down below.